Good morning, everybody, and a big warm welcome to the launch of our 2018 Breakfast Briefing Series. And I'm so happy to see so many of you here with us this morning. I hope you spent a bit of time and gave yourselves a bit of time. I know it was bright and early to take in some of the rebranding that we have for you and also the incredible virtual reality tilt brush session. We are going to be announcing the winner of the best Google Doodle, it's a tongue twister, before the end of the session. But if you didn't get the opportunity to try it, do so. It'll be open again after our breakfast briefing launch. Now, the last time that I was here 6 weeks ago, I had an ask of you all, which was for you to please feedback on what you would like to be seen, to be included in the breakfast briefing series this year. So firstly, thank you all so much for all of your feedback. The results and the feedback were phenomenal. And I'm sure you can see already how much that has been brought in to how we're tailoring our breakfast briefing series, not only with the rebrand and our incredible virtual reality, but also with the agenda that we have set for you here this morning. And we have an incredibly exciting 50 minutes for you. We're going to be starting off the session to open the Breakfast Briefing 2018 series with our guest speaker, Rose Hynes, which we're incredibly privileged to have here with us this morning. Rose is going to open the session. You're then going to see me again back on stage, where I'll be introducing our panelists, which are going to be discussing how digital has inspired them and how they've embraced change to make sure that they are growing their businesses and being current into the future. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our guest speaker this morning. It was Rose Hynes. Rose has experienced a huge amount of change and challenges within her business, but has embraced them to make sure that they are going to be driving successes. So I'd like you to give me and help me give Rose Hynes a warm welcome. She's the chairman of Shannon Group PLC this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Rose Hynes.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and it's very exciting to be here on this morning and at this launch. Being at the Foundry reminds me of something that W.B. Yeats said about seeking out opportunity. He said, "Don't wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking." Today I'll talk about change, because change in life is the only constant. In a 1980 interview for a documentary film with the very young Steve Jobs, he observed, and I quote, "I read a study that measured the efficiency of locomotion for various species on the planet. The condor used the least energy to move a kilometre. Humans came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. That didn't look so good, but then someone had the insight to test the efficiency of locomotion for a man on a bicycle. And a man on a bicycle blew the condor away. That's what the computer is for me. The computer is the most remarkable tool we have ever come up with, and it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds." Jobs' bicycle analogy illustrates the ability of the computer to amplify the power of the human brain. And he had a deep appreciation for the unlimited potential of human interaction with information and technology. And if Jobs were around today, I think that he'd see how the computer, as the bicycle for the mind, has really evolved into something that's even greater with the proliferation of artificial intelligence. And it has been said that if Jobs were around today, that he would actually see perhaps that the computer really, what it has done is that it's no longer perhaps a bicycle, but perhaps a Harley Davidson for the mind. Or is that even too slow? I'd ask you to think back to 2007. A young US senator named Barack Obama announced his candidacy for president. A young Leo Varadkar entered the Dáil for the first time. The housing bubble started to burst. The banking crisis started. Ads in the Golden Pages were still going strong in Ireland. Black Friday and Cyber Monday hadn't even been heard of by consumers in Ireland. And Apple released the first iPhone. So that isn't so long ago, but yet in technology terms, it's an eternity. Car ride or hotel sharing companies didn't exist then. And the first generation of social media platforms were just hitting mainstream. So much has changed since then. But of course, as we know, change is always upon us, and life demands that we embrace change and that we make choices. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that's most adaptable to change." Digital transformation is everywhere. It's on the agendas of all corporate boards, and it has risen to the top of CEOs' strategic plans. And each of us in our businesses, we want to connect with business, we want to connect with people, and we want to connect with markets. We want to better understand our customers. We want to reach our customers with relevant data at moments that matter to them. And we need to be agile. We need to keep up with evolving technology. We need to keep up with evolving trends. We want to grow. We want to enhance our branding efforts. We want to differentiate ourselves. We need to reach business decision makers. We want to target a wider audience. We want to know where the world is going, and we want to get there first. There's lots of talk about change, and everyone seems to be digitally transforming. Even the Pope has a digital guru. Renaissance popes used the art and the architecture of Raphael and Michelangelo, and they embraced innovation to impress. Pope Francis has a social media avatar. He has a YouTube channel. He has Twitter and Facebook accounts, and he's on Instagram. And he has said, and I quote, "Text messages and social networks are a gift from God." You wouldn't expect that, would you? And the Dalai Lama has launched his own iPhone app for his followers to keep up with his travels and with his teachings. So while businesses and their management teams are trying to keep up with digital transformation, they're trying to enhance their own digital capabilities. Meanwhile, technology is moving at a breakneck pace. So it's really hard, it's really difficult for business to keep up, to get ahead of the curve, much less even keep up with it. As Larry Page said, lots of companies don't succeed over time. What do they fundamentally do wrong? They usually miss the future. Even the word digital means something different today. It used to be synonymous with IT. Now, a company's digital strategy practically drives the map and the goals for various different departments, from sales to HR to marketing, and it's a business-wide change. If we get this right, the prize is clear. We have the potential to revolutionize the way we live, the way we work, and in a way that avoids the vicissitudes of previous industrial revolutions, creating new and exciting and previously unimagined business opportunities. The bicycle for the mind seems a long, long time ago. Technological disruption in the 21st century is different. Societies had years to get ready and adapt to the change driven by the steam engine, by electricity, by computer. But today change is instantaneous and it's ubiquitous, and it's happening digitally across the globe. And governments at all levels and on all continents are waking up to how social media has changed, and artificial intelligence has raced ahead and actually has gone outside even of their awareness and their control. And that's one thing that technology really has changed, the old hierarchical model of leadership. Today, individuals and groups and flash mobs are looking at the powers that be and saying, "You think? Well, we think differently." And that's good, and it reminds me of a story about JFK visiting Nassau. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy visited the Nassau headquarters. And while he was touring the facility, he saw a janitor mopping the floor. He went over to the janitor and he said, "Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy." And he asked him what he did in Nassau. The janitor replied, "Mr. President, I am helping to put a man on the moon." The janitor got it. He understood the vision and he saw his place in it. He had a purpose. And I suppose the story is about one man understanding what contribution he can make and how he fitted in to the whole vision of Nassau. It's not about one man at the end of a chain of command. And that's what technology has done for the world. It has flattened the chain of command. It has given individuals a perspective, a place, and it has given them the power to influence and to change. But I guess We have a lot of anxiety about change and how speedy it all is, but I think that what we need to do is the anxiety needs to be turned into fuel, I guess, to turn that change into the best that it can possibly be. And in that context, an often underestimated characteristic is vital. So it's completely underestimated, the power of common sense. Common sense, just that. Common sense is so rare it should be classified as a superpower. Common sense is what allows all of us to go beyond the noise of the immediate. And common sense, together with artificial intelligence, is a fantastic combination. Because on one side, you have all the normal human traits like cynicism, like skepticism, humour, and just ordinary questioning. And on the other side, you have intelligence, firepower, the likes of which we've never seen. Common sense gives us the capacity to look beyond the facts and to get the right understanding out of them. And you'll note that I'm talking about the facts and not alternative facts. And while I'm on the topic of fake news, I just recall something that Maureen Dowd, a US journalist, said. She said, wooing the press is an exercise roughly akin to picnicking with a tiger. You might enjoy the meal, but the tiger always eats last. And my money's on the tiger. Now, what the world needs now are some very stable geniuses, and I wonder where we might find some of them. And I'll borrow something from the Addams family, which says, define normal. I've talked about change, and it's always upon us, and we're always focused on it and wondering, how do we make it happen? Well, I'll finish with something that a US congressman and civil rights leader, John Lewis, said when he was asked how was he so successful in making change happen. He said, if you want to make an impact, you have to find a way to get in the way. So, ladies and gentlemen and tigers, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rose. I love that quote. In order to make an impact, you've got to find a way to get in the way. I think we can all take that back and learn from it. Now, I would like to bring you on to the next part of our agenda this morning, where we are so excited to have these leaders in their industries join us here for a panel discussion with Carl, who's my breakfast briefing partner and also agency lead here in Dublin. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to welcome our guests, Paul Carton, Head of Digital for Vodafone Ireland, Morgan O'Driscoll from Morgan O'Driscoll Auctioneers.com, and also Kieran O'Brien, Marketing Manager from CarmPB. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here so early. Gentlemen, thank you for being here as well. You are, in fact, our first panelists in our 4-year run of the breakfast briefing, and I think it's fair to say you've drawn a crowd. Just a quick check before we go actually into some of the questions. What's the earliest someone had to get up this morning to be here? It doesn't quite count if you came last night. What's the earliest someone was up this morning? There's a prize. 5. I've got 5. Can anyone beat 5? 10 to 5. I thought I was good with 6, but we'll give it to 10 to 5. Your prize is an extra coffee when you're on the way out. Guys, we'll jump straight in if we can. Rose just gave us a great piece there on how important change has been for her throughout her career and how she's embraced it and seen herself through some challenges and made sure that it was a champion of her business throughout her career. Paul, I might come to you first if I can, actually. Can you talk to us a little bit about your own experience with change and how Vodafone has embraced change and will continue to embrace change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a funny one. My title is Head of Digital, and it's fair to say my remit since starting at Vodafone 3 years ago has changed dramatically. And I think internally, at Vodafone, we put the customer at the heart of everything we do, and sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge when you talk about digital. Puts up a brick wall, it becomes, that's the website, that's the app, that's technology. It's things I don't really understand, and it's things that don't impact me on a daily basis. So we've really had to make sure that we bring the focus back to the customer so that the entire business can actually see that what digital is doing is not only transforming the technology, but it's transforming us, it's transforming ourselves as customers. So what we've really seen in the last few years is that the word digital has moved from being something that was sitting at a computer to being something that went with me everywhere I was with my phone, and is soon to be something that will be connected to every single device in my house. So it's actually, if you think about it, completely outgrown the definition of the word. So digital comes from the Latin digits, so your fingers. You're not going to need your fingers when you're actually asking your Alexa or your Google Home to order your shopping for you. And really, it's been very important for us to make sure that we're not too focused on the technology, but we're really focusing in on the customer and making sure that we're seeing how have they changed. And I think the easiest way to think about it is, think about when you went to the doctor 10 years ago. You'd go, you'd tell the symptoms, and you'd be waiting for the doctor to tell you what was wrong with you. Now I go to the doctor, and I'm sitting there waiting for him to tell me, you do have what you think you have, or you don't have what you think you have. And that's opened up a whole new host of ways to add value as a business to that customer. So think of how a doctor could change the existing experience of visiting the doctor to make that a better experience because they know that you have done your homework in advance. So I think for us, what we've really tried to do is to make sure that we've put data at the heart of everything that we do so that we can actually keep up with how customers are changing, how they're evolving, and how can we innovate to add more value to them.
Brilliant, thank you. Guys, I might open the same question to you actually. How have you embraced change for your respective businesses?
I'm up. I suppose what we've done, we're an Apple premium reseller, so we're basically competing against Apple. We buy, so that makes it quite difficult because it's the same price, same product, so how do you distinguish yourself? So we had to look at it. We were bricks and mortar for a long time. Up to 2 years ago, we were bricks and mortar. We had 6 shops in Ireland, a couple in the UK, but we had to change. We had to look at customers, and it's all about looking at the data, and that's one thing we didn't do. And we're very open about it. We didn't do it up to 2 years ago. We didn't look at things. We didn't look at people who were living in Donegal or Mayo where we don't have shops as potential customers. We redid our site. We re-looked at how we were looking at digital, because we had, as you said, a head of digital. What is it? We had an e-commerce manager sitting here. I was marketing manager sitting here. You had a social media person sitting here. Now it's all under the marketing department because it's about buy-in. You get these three facets all together because we literally were doing our own jobs and not talking to each other. So you then go back to the scenario where you have traditional retail people managing your stores and your head of retail who are traditional bricks and mortar. Let's get in, look after the customer. And we're never going to go away from the importance of that interaction with the customer, but you've got to explain to them that we need to know these customers better. And when you have non-store locations and when you want to go to places outside where your core business is, you don't get to know them unless you embrace the back end, the analytics. Yeah. The analytics. So there is a 27-year-old farmer who comes in and really wants to buy an iPad in Donegal. We didn't know that before because we weren't looking at Donegal. So it's there in front of you, and if you don't look at all the information there and you don't take the time, there's a lot of people who give, I suppose, a little bit of I will have a look at the analytics and they'll play the report and they'll go into the board meeting. There we go, lovely. We've 48% women and 52% men and put it away. If you don't look at it, and that's what we change, we literally on a monthly basis look at every customer, target our everything, not just our digital marketing, but because I look after the overall, our traditional spend, or radio, or print, or outdoor, everything has to go into the analytics that are coming back to us both in store and online. And if you embrace that, it makes things a lot easier, and then the bosses are happier when you sit into the board meeting.
Absolutely. And Morgan, finally, is on change. How has it impacted your business, and how have you embraced it?
I suppose traditionally I'm a bricks and mortar auction house, which were all in-room auctions. Obviously, 10 years ago when you're all auctions, the auction market has changed. It's a very small niche market which I'm in. But last year, for example, in 2011, I set up first Irish auction house doing online only auctions basically. And last year, instead of having 6 or 7 in-room auctions, I had 16 auctions in total, but 14 of them were purely online. But it's this, I think I would love to say I have digital strategists and all the rest of it. I have to do most of it myself in-house, basically, in that I love looking at analytics between getting all the products and cataloguing them, doing everything else. So, yeah, one day I dream about all the extra people that can give me a hand. But certainly I find when I'm doing auction-wise, the more information you can give people online, keep it simple, keep it as simple as possible for whether it be for registration online or whichever. If you make those pages difficult, you'll go to conferences, you hear the big companies, Sotheby's or Christie's, telling you that 97% of people leave their web page after just from the registration page alone. They'll just click out of it. Like, that's great. They do all the analytics and that. I should be doing more of them, and Kate and Marie, who I work with there in Google, are brilliant at trying to get me to get better goals inside there and get different things working out. But I don't have all the strategists and the rest of these guys have there, and that it has really worked for me. I would say 18 months ago, even 12 months ago, if you told me what I was doing and how much I was doing with Google AdWords, I certainly have moved my marketing budget has gone hugely away from the print media, which has been traditionally the way for auctions to be doing it. I still use it, and I still use radio, but at the same time, more and more that the remarketing, I don't know which campaigns, remarketing campaigns, Gmail campaigns, trying to keep an eye. As I say, I have a small company, so at the end of the day, I'm looking at analysing these on top of doing everything else as well. So having a presence on it there, but giving you as much information about a product and not making it complicating for them, and making it a one-stop solution, if you can, from my point of view, is
simplification. Yeah. Okay. So I think we've each discussed data there and analytics in some shape or form or another. Paul, I know that you mentioned that there yourself, and you guys had a particular successful campaign, which we'll discuss about in a moment. But can you talk about how the importance of data led to insight finding for you guys, and what you could learn from the data that you were able to get for your campaigns, I suppose?
Yeah, I suppose we recently launched a new proposition called Vodafone X, which was for college students. And one of the things when we started to do our traditional research, which is what we've always done, which is, we work with a research agency, we do focus groups, we find an insight, and kind of unhelpfully, we landed on the insight that actually you change an awful lot between the ages of 18 and 24. There's a clear role for Vodafone to help you discover who you are at that age, but really what you change and what you're interested in, we were kind of left with another big question mark. So it was at that time we actually started to speak with our amazing account team, Ruth and Elaine, about how could we actually work with Google to understand a bit more about what are 18 to 24-year-olds in Ireland interested in. And we were able to actually map out year-round, month by month, what do they care about, and when do they care about it, and where are there opportunities then for Vodafone to be relevant to them. So from that, we got some great learnings. We found out that apparently when you start college, dating becomes very important, apparently, as a student. And through that, we were able to see, okay, well, obviously you need our network in order to swipe right. So how can we actually let people know that we are the brand to help you do that? So it was a big shift in terms of how we normally do things, because it wasn't go to the research agency, brief the creative agency, get a campaign and get it out and just leave it run. We actually needed to think about how can we change the way that we work as a marketing team in order to actually respond to the various different things that our customers were interested in at various different times. So throughout the year, we really made sure that we were changing our creative, we were being as relevant as possible to our customers. And we've seen absolutely huge success from that, both commercially, but also from a campaign perspective in terms of our brand consideration, in terms of our brand recall. We partnered with you guys to understand how could we be hyper personalized to this audience. And I think, one of the things I'm always kind of saying back in the office is, our attention span has halved in the last 12 years. So when you look at this cohort, they really can, 6 seconds is all you have with them. And you've got to be able to land a very complex message, because telco is complex. We sell minutes, we sell text, we sell data. We have a lot of information we want to talk to you about. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to find a way of how could we really interrupt and flip the narrative. So we're not talking about us and our plans, but we're talking about how we're there to help you do what you love. So we partnered with you to launch Ireland's first Vogue On campaign, which was allowed us to dynamically adapt our creative to the video that someone was about to watch on YouTube. So if you were about to watch a Donegal GAA video, we'd tell you that with Vodafone X, you were able to watch all the GAA, all the Donegal GAA you wanted to watch, and we got incredible results from it. So it was a really was a really big difference in how we normally work in terms of it wasn't just a press play and walk away. It was working with it throughout the campaign, but it also made sure that we had data and understood really what was important to our customers right from the very start.
And could you tell us actually on that point, how did you move from the ideation stage right through to execution for such a successful campaign? How did you actually put into practice the idea? We know that we want to go after a new audience. How did we actually go from that, that's what the concept is, right through to execution?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for us was making sure that we had all the relevant parties in the room. I think it was about having our media agency, working with our creative agency, working with our Google team, and having everybody working together right from the start. We knew we had to look at this differently. We knew it was a different approach for us. And the most important thing was making sure that we had all of the right people in the room working together and not having a separate kind of siloed approach to it. So, once we had the data, we had our media agency in the room who were coming up with various recommendations about, okay, well, where could we go to talk to people who are interested in dating or who were interested in music? We had our creative agency thinking about how can we stretch the platform and move it in different ways. And then we had Google going, actually, we think we have platforms which will help you do this even better. So for us, it was really about making sure that we had all of the parties in the room talking to each other, working together, and then also making sure that we weren't kind of just pressing play and walking away, that we were actually continuing that engagement, so it became a year-round piece working together.
And Kieran, I know you'd mentioned around taking the insights from the analytics and actually reading and finding what those insights mean, as opposed to just let's print them off, but actually what can we learn from them and putting that into the strategy. Obviously, Q4 for your business would have been a big period for you guys. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you took learnings from that analysis and built it into the strategy for a seasonal peak for you guys?
Well, I suppose, yeah, as you say, Q4, like a lot of retailers, particularly in tech, it goes up, and then you hit Q4, and that's when you make your money. Quite simply, if you have to have a good Q4, we're all in trouble. So Q4 is hugely important. It's Black Friday, it's Christmas, it's gifting, it's very important. So we look at it. We look at what we had last year. We look at demo. We look at where they're coming from. We're looking at their interests. Everything we can, and like you also know how much data is in the back end, how much stuff you can pick out. And then we decide, right, we want to spend 35% with our agency. We'll talk to core agency and say, look, 35% online advertising. But we also say there's 20% of that in certain areas we can put up billboards. And it all goes back to this all-encompassing approach that it can't just be everything. But it also goes back to, I look at the data and I might think I know everything, but I don't know everything. And no one does. So you surround yourself with experts. You get a digital agency, like in our case we have Core who work with yourself. You get your experts inside working with the lads. We get our own media, traditional media buyer to say, right, we're going to go around it. Because if you try and do it, all on your own, thinking you know everything, it's going to be very, very difficult. For the smaller companies, that's why you have your internal person in Google who can help you out. But for a big company like us, we have the facility and we have the expertise, like the lads at Vodafone. So we pull them all in, throw it up on the table and say, right, this is how we're going to do, this is how it's going to work. But also look at, and it's very simple, it's a business and it's about doing better than last year. Then you're in the good books. So you look at what we did last year, how are we going to improve by 15, 20, 25%, particularly that Black Friday madness, which it is now. It's Black Friday day, Black Friday week, it'll be Black Friday quarter, the way things are going. But we need to do better, and we did with the help of yourselves, the help of the agency, with the help of everyone. We did a lot better this year, which is huge because retail isn't flying it in Ireland by any means. I'm on the e-commerce committee with Retail Excellence Ireland, and there's a lot of people struggling, and we bucked that trend and we put it down to, obviously we've got a great product, we're lucky like that, don't get me wrong, but there's other people selling the great product too. So it is literally looking at everything, taking that data, getting your whole team together, like yourself said, and putting up your plan, and then reviewing it, because again, it goes back to reviewing it. You can do it, and if you had a great month, great, but if you don't sit down after 6 weeks afterwards, do your POA, have a gander and say, right, okay, not everything worked, and not everything will work. Sometimes you will spend 2.5, 3, 4 grand on a campaign, and you go, I've got nothing out of that, damn it, and you'll feel bad. But you know something, the next campaign is there to do it better, and you just don't go with it again. Yeah. Not everything is going to work in business, in particularly marketing, because it's not going to work. And once you know that, it's a lot easier. Yeah,
I know we were chatting beforehand as well, you're going to kind of a layer beyond that as well. We were saying about, for last year for your business, connecting your offline media with your online media was a big focus for you guys as well. So how did, again, those insights and I suppose that planning feed into that execution for that exactly?
I'll take one example. There's a young enough demographic here. You take Hot Press Magazine, right? So Hot Press Magazine, music, demographic between about 18 and 34. So we had a look at our data and said, right, there's a lot of people who like music because they're buying iPods or they're buying iPhones or they're buying speakers or whatever off us. We said, we're going to do a campaign with that. We're going to have a look at some of our back-end words to make sure that we're searching or bidding on the same thing, and we tied it all back in afterwards. It's a very small example. It's a niche magazine, but a very, very good magazine we work on. But there's no use doing that and targeting this kind of music-y crowd who are into that and not bidding for the same guys who are online, because you could be sitting in, I was going to say Starbucks, but the Google Cafe or whatever, having your cup of coffee, and you're on your iPad. But you need to when you're searching, you need to be bidding on those words as well. So it is very much a case of suck it and see, as we say, try it and see it. But if you don't have any overall plan, it's not going to work.
So taking the insights that you knew of your audience offline and mirroring that into the campaign that we had online, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Morgan, I might come to you actually next, if I can talk a little bit about you've had a lot of success in bringing your market to an overseas audience for the first time. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you approached expanding your business and widening the reach of your potential audience?
I'd love to know the answer most of the time myself. Anyway, and some days it is good and some days it's not so good. But yeah, about 30-35% of what we sell goes abroad, which is great. I always think that when we get to 90%, there's such a small population in Ireland that when we get to 90% going abroad and 10% left in Ireland, that's when you've actually cracked it properly. But as Irish art, we are selling as predominantly. So how it's... what is the answer? I sort of say, not trying to be smart and don't know the answer. I think about this all the time. Sleep at night, dreaming about it all the time. How does it work? But anyway, that I do the analytics and I do a lot of the AdWord campaigns. I should do a lot more social media than I do. But then again, a lot of the age profile who actually buy Irish art and different categories will be an older profile to an extent, and that so that they don't use as much Facebook and they don't use as much Instagram and different ones there and that. But more and more, every generation that's coming on is using more of it. So it's because obviously I'd love to have the marketing budgets and everything that you guys have to go into that. But certainly from Google AdWords, basically on that, and just doing the dynamic ads, the doing brand awareness, trying to find areas, and when you're doing locations where you want to do it, you try and find areas where there's obviously Irish populations to an extent. There's obviously areas which, like in Ireland, there's counties which don't really embrace auctions and people just don't traditionally go to auctions and that. So more, so in the States, or being a typical example, the UK at this stage to me is more like a domestic market because yes, we sell so much to the UK. 20% will go to the UK, 65 to 70% will go to Ireland, and the other 10% will go around the rest of the world and that. So it's sometimes it's pretty hard to sort of say well, you get half dozen customers from New Zealand or Australia, and but trying to spend budgets down there. I'm hoping that Google, after me coming in this morning very early, are going to give me a database of every Irish person around in the world in the AB1 category, basically, and that's. And I don't even know what AB1 stands for, but all these other guys do, but whatever. So if that's okay, yeah, I'll take that on the way out, basically. That's all I asked for coming in this morning, basically.
Thank you. You mentioned you're based in West Cork yourself. I had the pleasure of being down in Skibbereen a couple of years ago at the National Digital Week. But I'm sure there's a lot of business owners perhaps in the room that are maybe not based in Dublin and might have endured or are enduring similar challenges to yourself in being a little bit more remote, if I can say that. What's your advice maybe perhaps for business owners in the room who are, it's February now, it's start of 2018, and want to widen the reach of their campaigns?
Yeah, you get up in the morning, you go. I love what I do, so I don't consider it to be work. I consider a way of life what I'm doing. So, okay, I'm married, 3 kids, and living in Skibbereen. They're all in school there. To move, you shouldn't in real terms sort of say be based in Dublin, what I'm trying to do and things like that. But it really doesn't make a difference. I've, as sort of say, changed my model. So 14 onlines, 2 in-rooms basically, and that the 2 in-rooms are held in Dublin. We do viewings in London. But it's as easy to go to London from Skibbereen as it is from, you set yourself up and get used to doing it. I am in Dublin every week, I'm in Belfast every week, more or less than that. So if you want to do it, the digital online, just when you're doing online auctions, it makes no difference. If somebody's looking in from abroad, they don't care whether Skibbereen is or where Dublin is, whichever it is, if you do the service and do it right, basically, in that. So, you think about it and sort of say move up. And move up, is it because it's going to make my life a bit easier and save me 4 hours a day, twice a week, basically, and that, or 4 hours to get out of West Cork and to get to Dublin. But at the same time, there's the other side of it. Since they're down there, I can work away in the evenings and keep getting work done. So there's nobody expecting me home for dinner at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening. So I can work away till 10, 11 o'clock, so I can get a lot more work done as well. So, but then it's small business and it works. But I don't know what the answer is to it really. And that I don't see it as a Ludgate, which they built in Skibbereen, which is the first town in Ireland which is 1 gigabyte, and that which is obviously brilliant for connectivity and things like that. So that's a real bonus. You'll find a lot of guys who, whether they're tech guys who have their own ideas and they want to set them up or moving down there, they like the quality of life down there. I love the quality of life down there. I love West Cork. There's 6 months of the year when it's fabulous, when the evenings are long, and there's 6 months of the year when I live up here, basically.
But that analysis piece and digital in general has allowed you to, I suppose, learn more about your audience, perhaps maybe.
Well, Google lets you learn that all the time, and the analytics and go into it. And I just sort of say, yes, I love looking at it, and I love to have, if I could look at it for hours, and then next thing find out, what the other 50 things I was supposed to have done as well at the same time. I need to teach myself more. The breakfast briefings are absolutely fabulous. I don't know about this one now, but when they're actually showing how some of the things work. I went to the first one probably this time last year, maybe, I think it was November 2016 was the first one I went to. I wasn't spending any budget with them. Certainly my business has expanded 2-3-fold since then. I would put a lot of it down to doing it. Am I getting it right? I think, as you sort of said, there's campaigns where I feel as if I've got really well paid out of them. There's campaigns where I'm going, oh, for God's sake, And there's times when I'm just updating campaigns and changing dates and updating images, but not really going into it. But more and more time you spend at it. And there's digital agencies here who I should be probably trying to talk to one of them to do it right for me and get it upgraded. But it is you, and I know I came in the first morning all excited, going, God, I'm going to go home, get all that done. Next second, and outside the door, I got a realistic phone call. Okay, back to work, into some real work, Morgan. Stop dreaming about doing the Google AdWords, which you should be doing. Yeah. So if company can actually have somebody doing it, get somebody who's engaged and enjoys doing it, but it's fascinating what. And putting goals inside there, and I'm sure all digital agencies, whatever, will have the sort of Morgan. They're so basic, it's so simple, just get it done. But at the same time, that when you have everything else to do as well. So from a small business perspective, it's made a huge difference for my thing, and my marketing budget has certainly gone 60-70% the other way over towards digital advertising based on that.
Paul, Rose spoke about how embracing change can help future-proof ourselves and help ensure longevity for a business. Again, start of the year, a lot of business planning taking place right now. Can you give us a snippet of what Vodafone are focusing on and what are going to be your priorities for 2018?
So again, it's to be very close to our customers, to understand how we can innovate around that. Delighted to hear you mentioned gigabit towns there. Commercially for us, really what we want to do is we want to be driving our rollout in conjunction with Cyro, who are our gigabit broadband joint venture with the ESB that we're working on. How do we actually connect rural Ireland to make sure that there are opportunities for businesses all over the country to actually connect to really high quality broadband that allows people to not just do business in their local area, but also to work with Googles, with Facebooks, and to expand that reach outside there. So this year it's really about making sure we are, again, staying close to our customers and making sure we're connecting everybody and giving them the best connectivity possible.
Well, I have fibre connected. Not being smart, I'm sure in Dublin there's plenty of buildings that all have fibre connected to them, but small building side of the street in Skibbereen, basically, and that next thing that there's fibre connected into it. I've 1 gigabyte coming in the door, and it's absolutely brilliant. You don't lose it, and it's Vodafone, thanks to Vodafone and Anna Leary, whichever, and the Ludgate team for actually getting it set up down there. So it's brilliant. So,
fantastic. Paul, I know that you guys you mentioned about the attention span of your audience now, and in general, we have 6 seconds, and I know that was a big part of the campaign that you guys had last year to reach that youth demographic was, YouTube, bumper ads, that's where you felt that your audience were. From having ran that campaign last year, Can you, one, give us some insight into the results that had for your business, and two, how that success is now informing your strategy for this year?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of skepticism around, particularly from our creative agency of like 6 seconds. Are we actually really going to be able to do what we do in 30 seconds and 6 seconds? I think based on, if you were to look at the results that we saw last year with our youth campaign, by using bumper ads and using 6-second formats, we drove recall of over 65%, which is a world record-breaking achievement.
Fantastic, yeah.
We also saw our brand consideration increase by over 16%. So I think that has given a real confidence to our creative partners that there are ways and means for us to do the jobs we need to do in 6 seconds. And it's also given, I think, some confidence internally across the business as well, because we've seen very strong commercial results. There's more of a hunger and more of an appetite from the wider business to see maybe there's a lot more we could do in digital that we don't currently do. So we're definitely in this planning phase, having the doors broken down into the digital department to talk about plans for next year, which is great. But I think, some of the really powerful learnings have been, A, it's kind of proved what I think I would have always known, that, digital works. And B, it's given us confidence in some areas that there's always been a level of skepticism about, particularly on creative formats, particularly on ways of working, which, as I said earlier, are very different. It's very much getting all teams in a room together, working on something and working on it consistently. So constantly looking at it, see what works. I think we would look at Vodafone X and say it's a huge success. But, I think to Kieran's point, there was so many parts of it that didn't work, but we found out by trying it. And we know, we're not going to go there again. But I think it has given a real confidence to everybody that, we can innovate and we can do the things that we have done previously through digital.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic message for all of us, that we not to be afraid of trying things, and we're going to get some right, we're going to get some not so right. But if we're continuously learning from that, then we can inform our strategy going forward. So I think that's a really good point. I'm going to come to each of you for your one nugget of advice for the audience for 2018 in a moment. But if anyone does have any questions, we'll come to the guys. We'll take questions in a moment. I'll be tossing that around. If anyone's been there before, to watch out for it. But we'll come for some questions in a moment. But Kieran, I might come to you first if I can. For 2018, what's your one big bet, or what's your one golden nugget for the audience?
I don't know how helpful this will be, but enjoy it. Genuinely enjoy it. Enjoy your job. Because if you don't, it's miserable getting up in the morning, it's miserable going to bed. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy looking at analytics, if you enjoy a marketing campaign, if you enjoy coming like the three of us here speaking to you, or if you enjoy coming to it, doesn't it make it all a lot easier? Your team, if there's a team working for you, in my case, make sure they enjoy it. It is very, very important to enjoy your job. The single most important thing you can do in a company is have a good work environment. This is the best example of it. There's happy people coming into the place when we were coming in this morning. Look at all the smiles. It's wonderful. That is it. Yes, you'll be pressure. Yes, you won't have the thing that will work, and the campaign might let you down, or you mightn't hit a target. But if you put a smile on your face and you do it and enjoy it, because go to these things, as many of these events as possible, read, do webinars, do all that kind of stuff, and increase your knowledge. And trust me, it'll be a lot easier. I'm 20 years of this stuff now, and usually in good form, and that's the way to be. So literally enjoy it.
I think it's fantastic advice. It can be challenging on a Friday at 6 in the morning, all right, but it's
as I said to him, I have an 11-month-old, and I stayed up here last night, so I slept, so I'm in great form.
Morgan, your one tip for us all today.
I thought it was interesting. He said they're all smiling. I mean, I wonder what the faces would be like going out the door. I suppose that's. I'd like to say he stole my answer, but anyway, whatever, and that would be much easier. But tip: keep trying it. There's actually try a marketing campaign, doesn't work. Try another one. Go out and. I love it. It's great. When I say it's great fun, obviously you've got to make a living doing whatever, and it there yet. That's thanks be to God, I've gone past that level, and everything's running well. But yeah, keep trying it and try different ones, and actually even do or start thinking about reverse ads. Actually, this year, if you ask me which way, instead of just marketing something when you have it there, why don't you do it the other way and trying to get new customers, a different way to get new customers in, and so look at how you find certain ads working well in certain areas and when you're trying to hit specific markets. And that's obviously, you know, I'm talking about this if a digital marketing company is probably going, listen, hang on, we know all that already. But to me, a lot of it's new. As I say, I'm 12, 14 months inside using Google AdWords. I find it a huge advantage to me, but keep experimenting with it. I actually, in one way, part of the reason for new people setting up new business or whichever on that, I would say, instead of just going straight to a digital agency, which on that, I didn't want to do it that way because I want to understand what Google AdWords does for me, first of all. So I want to teach myself. So if I'm talking to them about what sort of campaigns they are doing, I know what the relevance of it. Well, why don't we try this or try that? Now they can sort of say, okay, great. And the Google team, which I work with, are great at actually giving advice on that. So just understanding where the marketing, so because mine was traditionally radio or printed press, and it's just so different. It's so archaic. It hits certain sections. But if you're a small company, instead of just going away getting a digital agency doing it for you, start learning yourself how to do it. And the only way you learn it properly is you can go and do the breakfast briefings, but go home, sit in front of it, and mess it up, get it wrong, try it again, spend some money, and it'll concentrate the mind very fast. I promise you very much.
Thank you, Morgan. And finally, Paul, what's the golden nugget for the year?
The big thing is, you know, the tool is not the task. I think when you work in digital, you can get swept away with all of the latest innovations that happen. What you're working on from a product perspective can be quite complex to understand and get your head around. And I think sometimes we get carried away with what's new and what's really flashy, and sometimes actually forget that up front it's good to take a step back and say, what am I actually trying to achieve here? What do I want to do? And then the rest will follow. So I think, you know, the most important thing, and I'm always telling the team, is just take a step back every now and then, because it can be very stressful working in this industry. There's constantly new innovations. You're constantly getting emails from your boss saying, what's happened with the latest algorithm change to Google or Facebook? And, you know, sometimes you need to pull yourself out of it and go, what are we trying to achieve from a business perspective? And then the rest will fall into place.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think three really good points there. I think so. Find your passion. I think is as you're saying, Kieran. If we can find what we enjoy doing, it's not really work. And then between Morgan and Paul, I think it's around taking that step back and figuring out where does digital fit into the overall plan. I think is really what we're saying there. Okay. So I might open it up to questions now from the audience. So don't be afraid. Put your hand up if you have any questions. A few there in the front already. If we can get it to the guys.
Good morning, gentlemen. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. Very well done. I have a question for Morgan.
Oh, God.
This is a late tackle.
Absolutely.
Morgan, I like your website, and I've actually seen your website a few times, and some of the art on it is very good. And I've noticed you've also done very well on the mobile side. In other words, on the mobile side, when I look at your website on a phone, on a smartphone, it actually looks very well and works very well. And I'm curious to know, how long have you had it mobile optimized, your website, and did you see it having a big effect on the business? Like, have you had it from the start, or is that 2 years old or 3 years old?
I'd say it's probably 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I got it, I don't know what to call it when it works on all the platforms. So, don't even know the words used for it, but yeah, it's mobile friendly and whatever and that. But yeah, 56%, it shows in the analytics again, 56% of people using the site are looking at it on a mobile website. I'm just going to do another, well, to me it's fixing little bits and pieces on it. I'm not going to try and change it hugely. I have a few new inventions coming through for it this year, which in the next 6 weeks hopefully will be launched, which are really exciting. But certainly it's the mobile, and even just having a long conversation with my developer yesterday about it, just listen, we've got to just work on making sure the mobile works. That's where everybody looks at it. I don't have a computer in the house. Okay, this is one close enough by if I want to get to use one, but we just don't have everyone on. Everything's just on. I have an iPhone 7, which is 7 Plus, 6 Plus, 7 Plus, whatever one of those, the bigger size ones anyway, basically on that. And it's as big as an iPad as far as I'm concerned. You can do everything you want on it. My kids love it for playing games, and it's, but mobile is where everybody is basically on that to an extent. Somebody rings you and they're looking it up. They want to do one. So the mobile, sorry.
Just curious, did you actually sell more from the change? That was the
that's where you should put a goal in to see when they're putting the button. I don't know if you can actually even do that. Maybe you can find out, did they click it? You can? Okay, fair enough. Didn't know you could do that. Yes. Thank you for asking. Actually, that's an interesting one. I'm looking at Google people here. And yeah, you can. Okay, didn't know that. Okay, so that's another goal that is Kate there somewhere? Yeah, Kate, I need that goal inside the next whatever. So, sorry, don't have all the answers.
Hi. Based on my experience, one of the most difficult things to do in digital marketing is actually to separate the facts from the insights, right? So then when you do, guys, interpretation of your insights, do you have a data analyst doing this, or you do it yourself? So what you recommend a business actually to do with this? Because insights is actually what it's going to drive your sales at the end of the day. And despite your customers, is the insights actually where it's going to lead you to a successful. So how do you do, guys, in that respect?
I think from our perspective, we've had to be really clear on making the distinction between reporting and analysis. And I think that, as you said, you can certainly look at all of the dashboards in the world, but you can be drowning in data and starved of insight. So for us, it's about working with people or analysts who really understand how to pull out those insights, those people who are hugely curious, who really start to see trends that other people miss, that start to see actually there's an underlying reason why this is happening. So I think making sure that if you're in a position where you can get a good analyst, they're gold dust, so hold them tight. If you are doing it yourself, it's about spending an awful lot of time. For me, I have found the more time you spend in your analytics, the better you get at spotting insights. So it's when you start to join the dots of what you're not seeing that you really start to find those nuggets that tell you about why is a customer not doing what I want them to do, what's happening to them, where are they going. So I think it's about, if you can get an analyst, brilliant. If you can't do that, it's really around spending a lot of time, because it's the trends and the patterns over time that allow you to crack those insights and you can start to see those changes. Quite often it's not those short spikes that you see. They tend to be trends that disappear, but it's the longer term pieces where you really do start to get those really important business insights.
Thank you. We might just take one more question if there is, and then I'll invite Lindy back up to stage to close us off. No more questions? Okay, guys, can we give a big hand for our panelists, please?
Thank you so much, everybody. Before we close off today, I just want to say a couple of thank yous. I hope you all enjoyed this morning as much as we all did. It's been such a pleasure to open up our 2018 Breakfast Briefing series with you all this morning, and I'm really looking forward to seeing lots more of you throughout the course of the year. So keep an eye out for our monthly email where we'll be inviting you all to join us again. Secondly, a big thank you to Robin, whose last day it is today. Robin is up here at the back and has been the backbone of our breakfast briefings since day one and is going on to new, bigger and better things here in Google. Secondly, a massive thank you to Gianni Clifford, our illustrator and designer, who did and drove our entire rebrand this morning. And lastly, to our incredible speakers. We have had such a privilege having you all here with us this morning. We hope you enjoyed it. And thank you all so much for getting up at the crack of dawn to join us here this morning. Thank you, everybody. Happy Friday and have a fantastic weekend. Goodbye.